I tried to do this a couple times and I didn't have enough storage on my phone. I'll try to keep it short. Um, Still craziness around me. Um, 2 nights ago, I went down to the Stark County Sheriff's. I know my car's bugged, everything's bugged. I was playing some of my videos and they were all pulling in and driving around. Um, there was a blonde girl standing outside her car with tiny shorts and a tank top, and her parents. And I rolled my window down just a little bit, and she's looking at her phone and she's repeating what's being played in my car. She turns and she looks back at me and she said, "A minister taped you before." And I'm like, "Are you playing with me?" Because it just came out that Dave fentanyl me before and told me to say it. The lady that had log into the case, um, she was in the second building, the building across the fence right next to where I live. Um, it's the next building before it, second apartment. Her and the kids had come out laughing. Now my car is open, and they could hear, and the chip could hear. Everybody that has a login did. Um, that it's funny. She finally figured it out. Dave drugged her and told her to say it before. Oh yeah, it's funny. She finally figured it out. Where he had been mad that I got rid of the fentanyl patches. And they kept saying it was sick. They gave me amnesia drug and told me to say even gay sick stuff. I'm not gay. I'm like, oh my God, they did what? Well, where they were laughing about within the last 2 weeks, a guy with a badge showed up and she was outside. Said it loud enough to even hear into the next parking lots. And she told him, yes, they did drug her and tell her to say it before. I don't know what's on those tapes. Because when I talk to Dave, he defends me. Because I had overheard the kids were going to say something and I didn't know what. So he defends me. You're good to everyone. Don't worry about it. She's childish. And something like that. He calls her childish under her breath. You're good to everyone. Don't worry about it. Well, then I got to thinking. In 2003, where I'd been sick for years, I had got well. And it was months after that one guy that supposed to have helped pay the $25,000. His son had got killed in a traffic accident. Had nothing to do with. My whole family's 30 miles away. That it was horrible. I mean, at the funeral, he literally laid his body across that child, Tyler, and screamed, "God raise him from the dead." And Tyler and Phil wasn't even showable. Phil was a lovely man, and Tyler was a sweetie. They were late for church baseball game, and Phil ran a stop sign, and semi hit him, doing 40, 50 miles an hour, blew up their vehicle. Had nothing to do with nothing. So, where I've been sick for years, had about 6 surgeries. I have MRI reports. I have Cleveland Clinic reports that I was sick. I got scars on my stomach and my back where they had to go in and repair them. So, even where I was already starting to get well, months later, everything went in remission, and then it took about 6 months to get all the way well. Nothing had to do with nothing. We just go to the same church. But when they went to close that kid's casket, he even threw his body on the ground screaming. And 3 men had to carry him out, yelling at him, "Get yourself together. We need to have this funeral." Okay. Everybody felt horrible. He's wealthy. And they overdid. They bought plaques. They planted trees. They did everything in the world for him. Well, about 6 months later, after I got, probably about 4 months later, 5, some girl from that church came up to me and said, "Ron doesn't want you to come to church here anymore." I went, "Why?" I was working at that time, still going through withdrawal and of getting off all the medication. And I said, "Why?" "I just keep to myself, my family, my friends, and nothing to do with nothing. Well, it hurts him to look at you. Okay. So Danny and Josh were acting out. They were going out with Mike and Brandon. The strangest step-grandchildren, their real father had got killed at work, and they inherited a lot of money. Well, and their cousin, the Gravers. And they were drinking and driving, and my ex even admits he's seen them drinking. Well, they're 14 and 16 years old. Well, I grounded them. Then I found out they were vandalizing public property, grounded them. Josh had come home and said they did this. I'm like, you're grounded. With the times he went, it's okay. It was that bad. So then, he said one time they even got so mad at some kids calling them names, they took baseball bats and chased them. I'm like, you're grounded. They even one time stripped Josh naked. And they're 18 to 25-year-old men, my little 16-year-old, and made him run for a mile. They're not putting their dirty hands on my kid. That's all there is to it. And I even found naked pictures of his behind in his pocket. I'm like, who did this? He said they thought it was funny. I was like, this is not funny. And I tore it up. You're not going out with them. You can have neighbor kids over. You can go out with them. But you can't go out. You can go out with neighborhood kids, but not these horrible adults. And Danny, where they were staying out till like 5 in the morning and stuff, and they were getting grounded for it. He went to church one morning. Josh was asleep in the basement, and I was having a migraine from going through withdrawal. And of getting, I was on fentanyl patches. Danny came in, and he said, you're not my mother, I don't have to listen to you. I'm like, you're grounded. You're a 14-year-old smart aleck, you're grounded. And he took off, and I went and seen Heather and Brazilia and Joy. And I'm like, what is going on? He said, oh, Danny wants to kill himself. They want him to help destroy people in that church. I'm like panicking. Josh and I drive by the church. On the way home, we see the minister's vehicle there. I'm like, wait out in the car. I don't want him to know Danny's acting out until I find out what's going on. So, I get to the door. He pushes me into my face. Confess you weren't sick. I'm like, I never do that. I was really sick, and I can prove it. And he's like, you're a spoiled little brat. No one likes in this church. And I said, well, you never did like me. And he's like, no, not that I would, but the sight of me would hurt the church's children because I'm so ugly. And I'm just looking at him. He's like, you'll be lucky to see your kid again. So I go up and he told me to get out of his church. Well, I went and I got Dave where he was working part-time at Pizza Hut. He said, go home, I'll clock out, I'll pick you up. Instead, he went to that church. He came back and he's like, you're not going to church anymore. I'm like, why? And I called my mom. He's like, well, he preached on somebody grounding their kids too much. Well, they could go out with the neighborhood kids. They could have them over. But they're not going out drinking and driving and all that other crazy crap with those vandals and weirdos. Well, Danny got home that night, and he said, and Strange will give him back when he's done with him. I went, what do you mean when he's done with him? He came home, he was shaking like cerebral palsy. He's like, he lied. And he's like, I'm sorry, Mom, he lied. And next morning, Danny takes the vehicle, and he's racing towards a tree. I'm running after that vehicle as fast as I can. He's 14. All of a sudden, it swerves and goes rolling to a stop. He had passed out. I get him in the vehicle home. And within a few hours later, I hear the dirt bike starts up. I go running out there. He's going right towards a telephone pole. And I'm running. And he hit some loose gravel, spinned out, and wrecked and got all cut up. We ended up in the child crisis center, child and adolescent center. He was in counseling. He was on medication, seeing a psychiatrist for about 2 years afterwards. He said he even screamed at him. Told the counselor there he screamed at him till he passed out on the pulpit. Didn't let him eat. And he said he didn't remember part of that day. Well, I was talking to Georgine, his counselor there, and she said, Karen, ministers that do this, that it's documented that they're having affairs. I started laughing. And she said, it's not funny, that or they can't control their lust for other women. That or they're gay and denying their lust for men and taking it out on women. I'm really laughing by that. And she's like, Karen, it's not funny. It's a documented study. And then she said, that or they're child molesters. It's one of the three. And I'm dying laughing. She's like, it's not funny. She said, and I'll tell you what, when Danny grows up, we'll see what happens. Yeah, he tried to kill me, so I get everything. She had called Dave and said, I want your input on this. He said, not without an attorney. Danny was, like I said, I had to go to work to help pay for this. And I had to get babysitters to watch him. A lot of the teenage girls in the neighborhood helped. I couldn't afford to pay them a lot of times, so I just let them eat whatever was in the refrigerator. And they were just happy to come over and have snacks. And Danny was bulimic. He was almost 6 foot tall. And he got down to about 118 pounds because he was throwing up all the time from stress. It was horrible. And then where I was working, some of the girls helped out watch him too. Well, also, I took my kids up to another church, and he was talking about that minister saying I was fake and I was sick. And I'm like, I really was sick. And he's like, well, your husband's ties go to another church, and it's not right we take our bottled water and our snacks from our children and give them to yours. If you get a job, we'll consider it. And because you can pay tithes money here. But it's not right your children come here for free. It was all about the money. So I didn't see Strange again until, well, I seen the assistant pastor, which is my nephew, in Home Depot after that. He grabs Danny and he's like, we only want you coming back. And I'm like, let go of my kid. I walk outside and Danny collapses in my arms. There was several times Josh was out with him and he would collapse and pass out. Well, he'd have to get him back home. He was really messed up for a while. And let's see. I even seen him at a stop sign. He's driving by. He jumped out and tried to run towards my vehicle. And I took off. I mean, it was crazy. The next time I seen him, I was going to Blaylock's. Everything was fine for about 6 months to a year. And then Ron showed up. All of a sudden, where I had Danny Jen, her mom, Heather, my niece, Mary had showed up. She left Jimmy. They were threatening her at the office and at home that they were going to get her. And she was crying like crazy for months. Then Melissa, my ex-daughter-in-law, her parents started coming. So I had people around me. Well, all of a sudden, where Keith had all these positive messages. And even Bishop came up to me. I was praying, and God told me to tell you you're welcome and you're to come. And that one girl, Terry, standing there, you heard him. So his messages went to everybody was talking bad about him. To one where this one, Leah, she was an RN nurse. Her idea to have coffee and refreshments for the visitors. And if they weren't there, she passed them out to everyone that wanted something. She's very kind and very beautiful. And they told her she wasn't the right example for a church because she was divorced to pass out coffee, the thing she was paying for. She was horrified. I mean, everything was changing quickly. And Keith even got up on the pulpit and screamed at everybody, you're not to touch the food that's meant for the priest. Keep your dirty hands off. And he's screaming at everybody. I had walked out to the bathroom. Some lady walked up, one of the girls walked out and went, "What is he doing?" And a big part of the church quit. Danny, all them stopped coming. It was bad. And so I had Dave had people. Well, people started saying that I was drunk and drugs in a bikini running around the front yard. I don't drink, I don't do drugs, and I was over 200 pounds, and nobody wants to see that in a bikini, and I didn't own a bikini. They told people I was watching porn, playing with myself, and I'm like, oh my God. So Dave had me over at his church. It was horrible. Hardest thing to do was walk in there. And they're all staring at me. I'm like, what? you know? And Dave and I went to Strange, the minister, and I said, "Can I ask you a question?" And he's like, "Well, what?" And I said, "What are these people talking about? Do they see somebody else?" I'm trying to put logic to lies. I said, "I've even been down to Playlocks for the 6 months to a year." He goes, "Do you think your husband's cheating?" I'm like, "I don't know." He's like, "I don't want you ever in my church again. Get out." People had said that he was seen around Katie. And I had told people to get me evidence and I'd get rid of him. And later on, he ended up quitting his church and we went to another church for several years and he got better. But he hurt me really bad a couple times. And one time he even hurt me extremely bad and was yelling, "Keep your filthy mouth shut." And I hadn't talked to anybody. And so, yeah, and then we were out in the mall one time and where she was telling people she was dating him. He's like, "I'd rather kiss a cow's butt than that heifer." Well, they found out and they were supposed to be getting even with me. I would make him even walk on the other side of the kiosk so they couldn't say we were saying anything. When I was in there, some lady came up and said, "Well, I heard you got into it with Katie." I said, "I don't think we said anything but hello out in the mall. What are you talking about?" She started laughing. She said, "Is that what's going on?" I said, "What's going on?" "You don't know." "No what?" "Never mind." She started laughing. I went out with Frances. Known her for years. I'm like, "Frances, what's going on?" She said, "Mary hates you." I said, "I hadn't seen Mary in 8 years." She started laughing. She looked like the Grinch that stole Christmas. She said, "Is that what's going on?" I went, "What's going on?" "You don't know?" I said, "No what?" Never mind. So where would a minister take me? There was nothing talked about. When I talked to Dave, Dave defends me. "You're good to everyone, Karen, no matter who it is. You wouldn't do anything wrong." And when I said, "Well, John said she's going to be making up stuff and blah, blah," he said, "It's childish. You're good to everyone. Don't worry about it." And then the lady in the second apartment, she just moved out yesterday, where she had told that guy with the badge within the last 2 weeks, yes, they did drug her and tell her to say it, where they were laughing at me that Dave did it. Well, I had fentanyl patches, Daragesic, and they kept saying around me, "It's sick." They gave her an amnesia drug and told her to say gay sick stuff. I don't care if you're gay. I am not gay. And I never hurt anyone. So I'm just like, what causes amnesia? You're wide awake. Propofol, benzodiazepines, and fentanyl. What's fentanyl to Daragesic? Name brand. I was throwing up all the time there at the end. And when I found out he couldn't touch my drinks, I stopped throwing up. And here he had fentanyl, the drink, and told me to say something stupid, and I didn't know he did it. Because when I talked to him, "Don't worry about it, you're good to everyone." So yeah. Where they had people pretend to be me, cost me jobs, paid people to know where I was, set up 6 stalkers, 2 murderers. It went high tech because he started dating an agent's daughter named Michelle. They even bragged at the register they stayed out of a shooting night for that girl. And her mother even comes down, and that was at Walmart. And at Woodforest, those 2 were African American agents with dreadlocks. And an older white guy with gray hair and a mustache at Woodforest after the shooting. Her mother shows up at the food counter at 62 Walmart Memorial Day weekend 2019 for It's My Daughter, Her Husband Dates. He met her in Ravenna when she was having a stomach spell. It's for my daughter they did all this for, and then mocks me for being a protected person in the state, and I'm cleared with the register. You could hear her yell it out. And they were taping me unaware in my home. I guess I wiped some toxic water off with clothes on, and they didn't have a right. They didn't have a court order. They lied. Flat out lied. They don't give a court order to a mama's attorney friend helping you get away with premeditated murder. And that's a 2-year sentence for spying. You can tape conversation, phone calls if you're not collecting, but you cannot set up tiny cameras and watch someone and spy and not be police and hire. It's not funny. Wiping off water with clothes on, you gotta think. You pull out a bathing suit out of your front, you're underneath, you're behind, you adjust your top, dry off everything. Guys adjust their front area. People pull out wedgies front and back. It's not wrong with clothes on. We're not 12. They looked into it, and on 3/13, after I left Altman Hospital, I went over to Mercy Medical. A lady from the agency was there. No man was ever to touch her. I had diplomatic immunity and the warder from the government while they're going Nazi on me. The nurse comes in laughing. The only thing they got you on adjusting yourself. The guy's like, "That's sick." She said, "No, it's funny." She only adjusted herself. You can touch any part of your body with clothes on. It's not wrong. You have to hold yourself like 5 minutes to explain yourself that you didn't hurt yourself. I mean, dear God, we're human beings. Just wiping toxic water off with clothes on, you can touch anywhere. And it's a fast reaction of, oh my God, something's running. And so they come up to me in Rite Aid when I got my second COVID virus shot in the aisle. They taped there too in town. They looked at me and went, "You didn't expose yourself, you're good." I'm like, oh my God, arrest these people. This is insane. The extremes of this call and all these crazy people they hired, it is not funny. Like I said, only time I spoke to Dave, he defended me. And they all know that he fentanyl me before that lady was laughing about it. 2 weeks ago on Sunday, I'm at the gas station at the end of town. Some guy come racing in and said, "That ass actually fentanyled her." And I'm like, oh my God, they all call him an ass. Well, I'm sitting outside my old client's home. Some guy at the end of the street. I feel bad about everything. Well, I get home about 8:30, the car and the chip tapes. And they said, "Did you know he fentanyled her and told her to say it?" We just found out. Now, that other lady's laughing at me. That is funny. I just figured it out. So you did know. The only one wouldn't know is me. And we didn't know. They already told her they knew the kids were lying. And then they try to make something dirty out of something that wasn't. And they wipe that one out too, because it is adjusting yourself with clothes on. You can touch any part of your body. We're not 12. You have to hold yourself like 5 minutes and then explain yourself. Not a fast, "Oh my God, water's running." It's just stupid and the ridiculous of this occult. And the agents only participated because Dave was dating an agent's daughter named Michelle, and then he was using some girl named Lauren and her friends, and some heavy-set blonde girl with big chest and mean parents. "We're going to steal everything you have in life. We're going to move in the basement when you move out." It's like, shut up. But, I mean, I've been neurochipped. 12/21/18, stabbed in the neck of the refrigerator, dent in my skull. The agency takes responsibility at Altman Hospital. 3/13 at 2:53 p.m. And there's a CT of it at Mercy Medical Radiology Department. You can see they cut the wires of the crack. It does come a government chip on police standards. More than one police station have said something to me. Let's see. I was raped and tortured. I already told you that the agent involved. They even admitted that it was an agent raping me with a stalker at Shine, a salon, 8/18, 4:42 p.m. At the register. Our agent was seen with a stalker. She can have raping her. She can have anything she wants. And nobody showed up. The stalker is between February and April of 19, self-pay register, food counter area, gets in my face, and some other guy yells at him to leave me alone. He's the same man smothering me. Then I'm at 3:27. The receipt says 3:05. We'll go back about 10 minutes earlier. I walk in, I'm filling out a paper to get some information from a hospital. And there's two African American agents standing outside the register in front of people, tape and audio. That the agent said that he raped her because she didn't call 911 on the gunshot night. Well, that's fucking shit. I was in protective custody of the FBI. The two agents bragged at the register. They stayed out of it because Dave's girlfriend's prettier, and the guy running it didn't blame him. And that older white guy with gray hair and a mustache at Woodforest making fun of me. And what's really not funny is they actually say those men are really dead. And some guy said he's crippled. These people are utterly ridiculous, running around and helping out with this cult get away with premeditated murder and attempted murder on me, those men, my son, and his family. And they said there's a list of people. Someone does need to get down here. Everything was outlawed. Happened to me, from the neurochip to the drugs to the beat, rape, torture. From 2005 U.S. Supreme Court 11th Circuit 18-10134, and then Justice for Victims of Torture and Terrorism Act. It's horrifying what these people put me through. If they just wanted everything from one of their daughters, they should have put me in the witness protection program. Someone needs to come down here and help.